Acción! Hey Juan Pablo.
Hey Sean, how are you?
Doing well, doing well. I'm
Nice.
glad we're actually finding time to sit and talk. Life
Yes,
gets really busy.
definitely. And you always need to difference between what's important and what's urgent. So normally you're
It's
like in all the urgent things, and but there's also like important things that you need to do in your life, and yeah, it's nice to find the time to do that.
totally. Yeah, I just want to say thank you to my wife and children for allowing me to go have a phone call. That's what I'm having. I'm having a phone call right now. Yeah, so Juan Pablo, you're in Guatemala City,
I am.
and I am in rural Wisconsin, United States. And yeah, we actually haven't been in the same we haven't been in the same physical space in a long time, but we've been working together.
Last time we were in the same physical space, I had appendicitis.
Oh, that was bad. Yeah,
It was.
we didn't know that yet.
Yeah.
You just were like kind of. It looked like you weren't really that interested in hanging out with me. You kept on like grimacing and being like,
I was in
that was.
such pain.
Anyway, that was a crazy story that
Yeah.
that night.
Yeah.
I don't usually get text that early in the morning, and when I looked at it, I was like, "Oh wow, that explains what was happening yesterday. You were getting appendicitis."
Yes.
I think it was a text of just the picture of us. I think it was just your hand with a hospital bed
Yeah.
on it. I said, "I've been in the hospital all night." So anyway, you feeling better?
Yeah, definitely. But we got together because we were wanting to talk about the summer training, teacher training, Waldorf teacher training that we
That's
held online, right?
Yeah. So we also work with Victoria Reyes in
Yes.
Austin, and yeah, we were just kind of working this idea. We've been talking about it, and I think as you know, out in the world of Waldorf high school trainings, there's not many out there, and so and there's some great trainings, but there's not a lot of kind of shorter professional development. And so we're just trying to, having been teachers for a long time and knowing how vital it is, how necessary it is to be with other high school teachers, people who kind of get what we're going for, to really, just get to sort of be colleagues, get to talk shop, and get to really develop this, it's 100 years old, but it's relatively new.
Yeah.
Particularly for Waldorf high schools, where there's not so many of them, and so it was, yeah. So we've been cooking this idea for a while, and then we get together in Guatemala when I was there with a group of students. We were doing our yearly visit to some communities there, and we got to hang out, and magically it all worked out this summer, man.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of like the challenge, what you were mentioning, that there are not so many Waldorf high schools. There are a lot of kindergartens and elementary schools, but not a lot of high schools. And just like that, there's like it's harder to find also like I don't know, books and just like sources of information to learn about what's a Waldorf high school, right?
Absolutely. And then particularly, I mean, everything is changing so fast these days, of course, in education, but I think particularly in Waldorf high schools, in the high school, like what is coming at the teenager,
Yeah.
as it steps into he, she, or they step into adulthood, like they are just confronting so much. And so, obviously the things that were important in the 19 teens and 20s that Steiner was working with when in the beginning of the school, at the beginning of Waldorf education, are super important, and provided like a really beautiful and still, I think, very challenging, and I would call countercultural, kind of base to the education. but so much is changing, you know what I mean? So I feel like they need to have a training, not just based in like reading sort of lectures and kind of, learning sort of the canon of the curriculum. Like that's all important stuff, I think, to learn. But when you've been at it for a while, you see how like every day we need to be awake. We need to step in and really be like, what do the teenagers need now? Right? How can we follow these indications to like the present moment? And to do that, we need each other. We need other teachers who care about this a lot. And yeah, I mean, it's now it's October, so it's been a couple months since we all got together in the summer, and I still kind of feel amazed by the group of people that got together. I mean, we were 30 people in this online training that you and I led, and along with Leslie,
Yes.
who brought wonderful music. I mean, it just was astounding. I mean, we had people teaching all across Canada and the United States, on the call that, people were visiting homes. So there's people in, I think, she was in Jordan, Germany, India, Pakistan, all the coasts, so we had like this huge range of time zones. We had people who were humanities teachers, science teachers, language teachers. We had some administrators there. So it was really, and then people who were like, I just stepped off, I don't even know where Waldorf High School is, to like, I've been doing this for 30 years. It was really, I think, just a really impressive group who were just so game. Didn't you feel that? Like, there was just like, I don't know, it was like there's always a little bit of like, how is this going to go on Zoom? Are we really going to connect? Are we really going to, or are we going to like sort of perform some kind of community? Is this going to be real?
Yeah.
But my feeling was like, I mean, I was sweating. You know what I mean? I was like, oh, these people are like, it's real. Felt like real interactions and, real hunger. That's what I felt like. People were hungry to.
Definitely. And one of the things that I think that you mentioned is that, like in the pre-K and in kindergarten and in the elementary, we're kind of like protecting the students from the outer world, for them to have like a healthy environment and everything. But in high school, we definitely want the students to go out into the world, right? So that's why, high school changes a lot because the world changes a lot, right? And that was one of the center points of the training this summer. But I think we're starting, by the final part of the movie, by the ending of the movie, and so I don't know. Let me ask you, this is kind of like the ending of what?
You never do that, Juan Pablo? Just kind of like skip ahead.
I think that's the best way to start something,
That's how I read books.
Yeah. But this is kind of like the end of the movie of, after how many years have we known each other? We met in what, 2017? Something like that?
We met in 2018.
2018.
Yeah, we met 2 months before my son Hanson was born. Yeah.
So 2018, that's 5 years ago.
You first called me in 2017.
Okay.
I got a phone call from you in 2017. Yeah.
Yeah, so I called you. Well, I sent you an email and then I called you in 2017. And how is it that 5-6 years later we're giving a training at Great Lakes Waldorf Institute during the summer? And you know what?
Do you want me to tell that story? I mean,
let's let's start a little bit before.
Yeah.
So that movie when we met, I think that's kind of like the middle of the movie. Yeah. So
yeah.
How did you come into Waldorf education?
Yeah. Well, I came into it. I kind of tripped into it. I would say, I wasn't necessarily looking for it. But I got into it um, right out of college. Actually, I I was really into theater and circus arts, and so I was a group of friends in me. We traveled around the United States in a bus and performed and taught. And so we performed a show, and lo and behold, the places that as we traveled around this country that would take us in were farmers markets. Thank you, farmers markets, and Waldorf schools. So I think that's actually how I found out about Waldorf schools. Waldorf schools would invite us in to do little shows, to work. They were open, they were inviting, they were into the arts, and that just like opened my eyes. And then in those travels, connected with the school that I'm currently at right now, and I've been here since 2005. So it's been really, this has kind of been my adult life, has been finding Waldorf education, and through the Youth Initiative High School. And so I jumped right into high school. Didn't and from there, kind of started in and kind of training on the job, and did some training sort of after I was already started. But that's kind of how I got into it. I was like a anthropology major in college, and also really loved politics and kind of community organizing, and so was really involved in those kind of things and the arts. So those were kind of three things that I like knew were going to sort of form my life. Something, I like thinking, I like writing, I like reading. So something I needed to have that quality. I love community, building community, and then I like to be wacky and artistic. So Waldorf schools just kind of in this particular school I found, I think really just met me, and has allowed me to kind of grow as a person, and have a lot of fun and along the way. So I think that's how I got into it.
Yeah.
But I don't quite remember. You have told me before, but how did you get into
Well,
teaching
I
in
also
Waldorf school?
tripped into Waldorf education. I was doing something completely different. I was in promotional items, American company. I was working for them, and we were something completely different. But and I was studying to become an engineer here in Universidad del Valle in Guatemala, and suddenly I was thinking on, I think that society needs to change, needs to transform into something different, and so I thought, like, how can I start? And well, I switched from engineering to become a teacher, a high school teacher, and but I didn't switch jobs, so I was kind of like studying education, but at the same time, just I kept working on the same place. And then I kind of like, I was thinking, like, if I'm studying education, I should work in education, right? So I remember we were moving from a house in the city to one that it's on the outskirts, and I saw like this big sign, like big billboard, that said like Waldorf school opening in January, because the cycle here like the school year goes, like, it's different in Guatemala. We go from January all the way to October. So I said, like, you know what? Let's give it a shot. So I just called the number that was on that billboard, and I asked, like, are you looking for teachers? And they said yes. So I went there, and that's actually how I started. And I started teaching 7th grade. Yeah, so I spent 2 years, well, first teaching 7th grade, then 8th grade, and then like the the leading group at the school said, we're going to start a high school, and they basically told me like, and you have to plan that, right? Like I had no experience. It was only like my third year teaching, and I don't know why I said okay, I'll do it, and yeah, also it was really fun. I learned a lot. One of the hardest things about starting that school was that there were no Waldorf teachers in Guatemala, so we had to train everyone. Nobody had any idea of what Waldorf education was, and that's actually how I met you. We were planning on this 5-year training, and I called you for the first year actually. Yeah, and that's how we met, right?
Yeah, and through our wonderful connection with Svea Lara.
Yeah.
Through Svea. Who was now passed away, but was the mother of a couple of boarding students at the high school where I teach. And so, God bless Svea for saying, for putting in a word for me,
Yeah.
So yeah, that was going down there was really my first time ever leading a teacher training outside of my own school. So I think I'm also just grateful to you, Juan Pablo, and to all the teachers who are there. Just to kind of bringing the outsider, who's the expert. Obviously I've been teaching for a long time and I had something to share, but it was all very new, being like working with teachers specifically in that way.
Yeah.
And so but it was just so much fun, and I think actually in the last 5 or 6 years has become something I do a lot more. And that's where I reached out to you, right? So my next connection, if we were going to kind of play this movie, would be connecting with Victoria.
Yeah.
And Victoria and I started to teach 3 years ago in the summer a course, and that was the first course, which was also brought into being by a school in Wisconsin that was founded and wanted to train its teachers. So I think this is kind of, it's like I said, it's 100 years old, but it's still so new.
Yeah, definitely.
Waldorf High School, like there's still that startup energy even the schools that have been around for a while. But the starting up of a school close by here brought Great Lakes Waldorf Institute to say, hey, we'd like to offer high school training, high school professional development. We're not sure what it's going to be yet, but let's get it started. And so that first summer was Victoria and I working with three different schools in this training, and then the second, this last year, the summer before last, we ran 2 levels, kind of a beginner group and then a more group that was deepening, and then that led us to this summer when we did 2 rounds of thinking with heart. And we get to do the virtual one. So yeah, I think it's just really joyful to me how it's all evolving. To me, it's really been. I mean, obviously, like there's some ego in it, but like it's really been people asking, like, "Hey, we want this, and what can we do?" And so that to me feels really great. Like the relationships and the sort of ongoing like connections with schools that are starting in different places really fills me up personally. And I think big picture here. I mean, I think we want there to be more Waldorf high schools out there. I think we think it's a super life affirming and an exciting way to work with adolescents, and so that's kind of the bigger picture where we're going from, and that people need support. People need support in manifesting their
and people need community also. That community building. I think of course you have like a community within your school, but also like kind of like building that bigger community and knowing that it's not just your team, that it's trying to build this, but a lot of people all around the globe actually, and that's what we were able to witness during this summer training, right? And just as you said, this is like more than 100 years old, but it always feels like there's something being born, right? So, and in this case, is this podcast, right? We're trying to make this baby born, and and to build community mostly, right? So yeah, it's not about the two of us being experts and like giving lectures or anything like that. Actually, it's more kind of like amplifying the conversation, right? And
That's our goal. Yeah, we were talking about like how do we keep our own conversation going? In this collaboration we've been working on for a number of years here. How do we keep that going? But also, how do we? That's kind of like how we ended this summer's workshop. It's like, seriously, we want more colleagues.
yeah,
We would like to be colleagues. And how do you keep that going, right? When everyone's busy and everyone has really important work to do right where they're at. And so, so we talked about wanting to create a space where we could, keep some of these really, vibrant themes that are facing all these teachers every single day. And how can we kind of keep talking about them and maybe shedding some more light on them and, not only our own experience in the conversation, but inviting in some people to interview and talk along the way. We just thought this could be a really useful way to invite in, for new people, for people new to Waldorf high schools, or people who've met us before. I've been working on this for a long time. There's clearly not a Waldorf high school podcast out there, so there ought to be. Here we are.
Yeah. And what's that conversation that we want to keep going and want to amplify? What's that pensando con el corazón? Because you just wrote an article in Spanish about that, right? So what is that thinking with heart?
I mean, we a little bit of the, thinking about how we want to work with teachers, giving a little bit of form to this conversation. We thought about head, heart, hands, as this, sort of thinking, feeling, and willing as these necessary weaving of our being, and how can we explore those and their interconnection, but also their uniqueness. And so, the sort of the first concept that kind of came out is a concept that Steiner uses this phrase variously through his lectures. It's just, how do we connect the head and the heart? How do we connect thinking with feeling? How do we connect the heart and the mind? So I think we want to explore that, and really, I think, because we're working with teenagers and their ability to think, and like you said, kind of face the world, the reality. That we're not sort of guarding them from. We're trying to guide them into it, right?
And that right now it's a really like special context, right? Like historically, we're living something very important and powerful. That it's having access and having to deal with artificial intelligence, right? And
sure, what is reality? I mean, if we're trying to bring young people into what reality is, and we're trying to help them develop their powers of thinking, their own intelligence. I mean, I feel like we are living a profound philosophical moment of like, what is intelligence?
Yeah.
What is consciousness? Right?
What's artificial?
What is what's living? What does it mean to, it's unprecedented the amount of mental power and financial power that is being poured into AI research right now. I get Time Magazine, this month's issue is about AI, and it's about the 100 leaders in AI. And the range of things they're working on is just astounding. There, as we know, there's AI bots that are used to in medicine, used to sort of to guide doctors. There's AI therapists, right, who are used to sort of work with people who have, in lieu of a human therapist. There's obviously AI bots that write your research paper for you. There's AI bots that are going to drive our cars, that are going to make our cars. So if you look in the next 10, 15, 25 years, it's really hard to keep up. And I think, obviously our students see this world, and they look to us, though. They still look to their teachers. They still are looking to the adults, and to sort of understand. Obviously, like, we're all drawn to the new, but we're also drawn to wisdom. I feel like that's like a deep need, is like water. Like it, and so we the newness kind of it kind of buzzes off, right? And I think they start to look to people around them and trusted adults and guides, and they want to know, like, what. And so for us to be able to really meet them in their questioning, we gotta go into that conversation ourselves. And so that's what we decided, to, like, hey man, let's not mess around. Let's start right in.
Yeah.
If we're going to talk about thinking with heart, we got to talk about what is intelligence, what is thinking, And so I thought we had a great debate.
I loved the debate. I loved it. It was.
So we were going to have it, like, we changed the schedule around. We're like, maybe by the end of the week we can have this debate. And it was like the week before we were planning. I'm like, I think we both were like, we got to put this thing first.
And that set the mood for the whole training, right?
Let's not mess around. You know what I mean? We're going to do introductions. Everyone feels nice. Everyone feels like they know each other's name. And then, dun, 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 pow. Juan Pablo versus Shawn Michael. Boy. It was epic.
Yeah. A couple of months after that debate, what do you think? What were the highlights of that debate? What are things that we should discuss again?
I want to something that I was thinking about from that debate and the whole week, because we worked with it, the whole week with everyone in the workshop, doing kind of artistic responses and kind of working with it in small groups. And so my big takeaway was how important it is for us as teachers to know how to work with AI, actually, to not shun it. So
well, I don't think we can know how to work with AI. But
no.
At least to explore that, yeah.
So I would say cultivate an interest and a curiosity, about what's going on here. And so I think, like, I remember, a number of years ago reading Douglas Gerwin, who's awesome. I don't know if you ever met Douglas, but Douglas ran the Center for Anthroposophy high school training for many years, and he wrote this great article about selfie sticks. A number of years ago, and so that's sort of the spiritual dimension of selfie sticks.
Okay.
Do you know?
Yeah.
So, and just this idea that, like, there's obviously something so gaudy and, like, terrible about selfie sticks, right? We can kind of say that that's materialism and that's whatever, but there's also something behind that, which is like our desire to be able to see ourselves from outside of ourselves, right? This there's the kind of a spiritual dimension, like a capacity, a human capacity that we want to fully live into, right? And that, like, technology is kind of like the first step in that direction, was kind of his point. And so I think part of what I'm saying about kind of, learn how to sort of interact with AI, I'm not just saying get real slick at using ChatGPT. I'm talking about, like, us deeply wondering what's going on in the world, and trying to kind of get behind some of the intention and some of the what is this pointing to? Why? I guess the why. I'm talking about the why. Like, what's the why behind all these things? So I think that to me, one takeaway I want to talk more about is like really what's going on there, kind of philosophically and morally, and and what does that say about human beings? I guess that's kind of so for me. The big takeaway was like not just say like AI is bad, AI is not Waldorf,
Yeah.
but to say like AI is a real thing happening in the world right now, and where's it coming from? How do we learn about it? How do we help students learn about it? Question it. See it as a part of, in some ways, of what's going on. Right? Destiny. It's happening.
So yes, and I think one.
Yeah. What about you? What do you?
Yeah. Well,
Let's
I
stick it with
think
you.
that when you face something that it's so different, it's kind of like when you're a foreigner in another culture, you kind of like then become more aware of your own identity, right? So I think it should be the same thing. Like now that we're facing another type of intelligence, if we can call it that, I don't know, but now that we're facing another kind of processing information, and yeah, this should like give us a better sense of what is like to be a human being, and yeah, just like noticing the differences that I think that they are very subtle, because these artificial intelligences are trying to actually kind of like mirror or copy or
Mimic.
mimic
Yeah.
mimic our own intelligence. So yeah, like I think, yeah, like this polar view of is it good or bad? Yeah, we should be past that, and I think that a better question is, now that we can mimic our intelligence in this microchips and processors and things like that, then are we still a different type of intelligence? Are we still a different type of being? I can say definitely yes, but asking that question of how are we different,
Yeah.
and yeah, what makes us different from that type of processing information.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that's what's
Yeah. And
worth.
I think that's so beautiful. Yeah. And I think it's, yeah, just, what's it mean to be human?
Yeah.
What are humans for? Is Wendell Berry's question. And I think that question is just, it's not a far off question to consider one day. It's now for sure, and I think it's a pretty profound moment insofar as like our students and us are facing the same quickly moving reality. You know what I mean? Like we're really having to sort of answer this question from our unique life experiences, but the same question is really real for both of us. For all of us. Yeah.
And I think we should keep this conversation going. Maybe on the next episode, we're going to talk of a lot of things, right? Not just AI, but also what's a main lesson, our experiences in the high school, and maybe this will help someone, or like to build a new high school, because I think that's the aim, right? That's the goal. But if not, at least, just like we were saying, building community, amplifying the conversation, to keep in contact. Yeah, I think that's
Totally.
that's the idea.
Yeah, and then Yeah, I think even it would be awesome. I mean, just dream here. It would be so cool if, down the line, people who listen to this actually like wrote and say, hey, could you talk about this? And
Yeah.
we could talk about it. That'd be really fun. Then it would really feel like a conversation.
And maybe we can have also those people here, we can have guests, and I think, there are a lot of people that we know that are in the Waldorf movement that will be just amazing if they can be invited and participate and amplify a little bit more the conversation.
Right. Because obviously a unique thing that humans can do, right? I mean, like obviously machines can share information.
Yeah.
They're really good at that.
Yes. They are better
or,
than us, actually.
They're better at that. But we can make connections.
Yeah.
And we can make connections that resonate in our life. Where it's I think it's beautiful to think of human beings as musical instruments. You know what I mean? Like we can vibrate together, and things that we share here. If we're really talking about things that are real, they're probably not just real to us. Like we'll hopefully create a bit of a communal harmonic, let's say, where what we're talking about is gonna reverberate out into what people do the next day in class. You know what I mean? And so hopefully we create some living conversations and pictures that are useful for all of us. I think we all want some inspiration, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Definitely.
You started by saying thank you to your wife and your kids. Well, I want to end by saying also thank you to my wife and Luna, for letting me have this conversation on today's Sunday night, but we don't know when you're going to listen to this, when are you going to watch this, because you can also watch the video. So it depends if you're listening to this on a streaming service platform, or if you're watching us on YouTube. But thank you. I don't know, maybe you just that one person that is watching us right now, or and thank you, Sean. I think we're going to get really good conversations out of this.
Yeah, thanks, Juan. Well, I'm having a great time.
Okay.
Let's keep doing it.
Yeah, definitely.